তারপর থেকে আমি শুরু করছি। So good evening everybody. I will today take up a very important part of your physiology, and that is respiration or respiratory system. Now, this is respiration is something which we all know what it is. We respire, we breathe in, but there is a difference between what is respiration and what is breathing. We use it synonymously. That is, we use breathing in place of respiration. We use respiration in place of breathing. So we think that them to be the same, but respiration is not breathing. It is different. So I'm going to present my slides right now, and then you can get to understand what it is. Now just tell me once whether I am audible and visible or not.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so fine. And let me tell you, if you face problems anywhere, I can translate it into Bengali also if you want. But right now, let me give the lecture in English, so that this lecture can be people who don't understand Bengali, they can do. But mainly it's in English. But in between, I can talk in Bengali to explain certain things. So there is no hard and fast rule of it. So the slide has come on your mobiles or computers.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is basically an American Rangers. This cartoon shows that respiration is not breathing. What you study in physiology is breathing, basically. You don't study respiration as such. You study respiration, but what respiration is, that all organisms respire. It is the production of ATP from organic molecules. And aerobic respiration requires oxygen. And for this respiration to take place, you need ventilation and gas exchange. This part is physiology. But essentially, it is glucose is oxidized to form, give energy, and it forms carbon dioxide, water as a byproduct. This is respiration or cellular respiration. But what we study in physiology, it is not respiration. It is essentially talking about breathing. So to define respiration, in biology, respiration is a process in living organisms involving the production of energy, typically with the intake of oxygen and the release of carbon dioxide from the oxidation of complex organic substances. The complex organic substance is glucose and oxygen, energy is released, carbon dioxide and water is the byproduct. So this is what in biology you call respiration is. But in physiology, it's also part of biology. What we are meaning here, it is that in physiology, respiration is the movement of oxygen from the outside environment to the cells within tissues and the transport of carbon dioxide in the opposite direction. So what you study here in respiration is how you take in the air, how oxygen comes inside your lungs. From lungs, it goes through your blood to your tissues. And then what you study is then how the carbon dioxide comes out from the tissues, goes into the blood, and then comes back into the lungs, and then it goes outside. So this is what you're studying as respiration in physiology. But actually, the real respiration is taking place after it goes inside the cell. How the process of glycolysis, Krebs cycle, electron transport chain, these are all respiration processes. That's basically, you will study them in biochemistry. So essentially, this is how you can define respiration as. So just don't confuse. what we are basically studying right now is breathing. This breathing is very important for respiration to take place. There is no doubt about it. Oxygen is pushed into the cell, and this oxygen is required for glucose oxidation to take place. So, an essential prerequisite of respiration is the process of breathing, and in physiology, it's also known as respiration. So the overall process of respiration and breathing can be nicely summarized in this cartoon over here. Oxygen is going inside, carbon dioxide is coming inside. It's going inside the cell in the lungs, and from there it goes inside the cell in the mitochondria. The actual cellular respiration part is taking place. This particular reaction is taking place. So in the breathing, oxygen is going inside, goes to the lungs, from the lungs in the blood capillary. From there, it is distributed into the tissues. From the tissues, carbon dioxide is taken up, goes back to the lungs, and it goes out. So what we will be studying as respiration in physiology is this part. We are not going to study this part. This part we will study in the next few semesters in biochemistry. We will study this, and this is going to be a very important thing which you are going to study. You already have studied in your school, class 11 and class 12. So this is basically the overall process of respiration. So what is the respiratory system as such? The respiratory system consists of, first, the nose is also considered a part of the respiratory system. You have certain tissues on the top. These are essentially the sinus. Sinuses are spaces. These are known as ethmoid sinuses. Sometimes when you have a cold or problems like that, you have mucus blocking over here, and then you find it very difficult to breathe because these passages are clogged, so the air can't go inside smoothly. So you have to pull your nose or use Otrivin or something so that there's a dilation of blood vessels over here. Even the tongue is there. You breathe through the mouth. The tongue is also considered part, because sometimes you can taste the air also. You can get some chemoreception takes place in the tongue also. And then the tongue leads to the pharynx. That pharynx leads to the trachea, which is very important, the trachea. And that trachea, it leads directly into the lungs. So what are the directly into the, first it goes into the bronchioles, bronchus. This is the main first line is the bronchus. From the bronchus, it goes into the bronchioles. The bronchioles here lead into small sacs known as alveoli. So this is one alveoli. So air, the red is the air in and blue is the air out. The red is the oxygen which comes in. There are certain tissues over here. The gaseous exchange takes place, and this is your blood capillary which is there, which takes your oxygen to the blood. So this enters into the blood, and at the same time carbon dioxide from your capillaries is released through the alveoli, and it goes out. So the alveoli is like a sac. When air comes in, it enlarges, and then when air goes out, it again becomes small. Now if you look at the histology of the trachea, the outer layer it's a ciliated layer. It's got little cilia which moves, it beats. Basically, there are a lot of mucus which comes through it, and that helps it to move. Then you have lymphocyte cells over here. You have goblet cells, and you have these are basically an epithelial cell layer. And an epithelial cell always has got a basement membrane. And below that, you have the blood circulation, blood vessels, nerve connections, and everything are below here. And you have basically connective tissues known as fibrocytes and structural collagen fibers present. So one layer of epithelium with goblet cells, a basement membrane. These are ciliated epithelium. You will basically you have it in the beginning of this physiology. You have the different types of epithelium. So this is an epithelial cell. So this epithelial cell is a ciliated epithelial cell. It's a bit columnar in shape. You have certain goblet cells. They store a lot of fat reserves inside it. We have the lymphocytes for fighting. You have certain basal cells. and then you have certain basal bodies also found over here, some structures. And you have a layer of connective tissues made of fibrocytes and collagen. Then you have, these are the blood capillaries, these regions you can see. In the histology, these are the blood capillaries. These are blood capillaries. Actually, the blood is flowing through them. You are making a cross section. So it's a long tube-like structure. You're making a cross section. So when you make this cross, what you find is you find a section coming on in this section. So the capillaries which are going like this, they get cut. And so you see a section. You see this, the blood flows through these regions. So these are blood vessels. And you have mucus acinus. These are acinus cells. These are responsible for secretion of mucus. These are serous cells, serous acini. These type of cells are present. So this is essentially the cross section of a trachea. Now let us go to the histology, a section of the lungs. You cut a section of the lungs. So basically you find lots of spaces. These are alveoles, cross section of alveoles. So basically it's a whole bag. You make a section of this bag and you find the structures like this. All air is filled in these spaces and they expand. And this is a section of the bronchiole. A section of the bronchiole comes. A bronchi, a section of the thick bronchi, from there thin bronchioles. From there it ends into alveoli. So since you're making a section, everything comes flat. So this is the bronchiole. These are the alveoli sections. Basically, this thing, there are many sections and you have a ball. You are making a section. So you see it something like this. So these are the capillaries present over here. The capillaries are the blood capillaries. So the little capillary spaces over here. It's also the cross section. So this is the histology of the lungs. Essentially, these are the respiratory organs which we are concerned in our physiology. So now what breathing is? Breathing, another term of breathing is ventilation. So breathing or ventilation is the process of moving air into and out of the lungs to facilitate gas exchange with the internal environment, mostly by bringing in oxygen and flushing out carbon dioxide. So oxygen comes in and carbon dioxide goes out. So there are types of breathing. The first type of breathing is eupnea. In the mammalian respiratory system, eupnea is a normal, good, unlabored breathing. You are breathing comfortably. You are comfortably, but you are not having any breathing problems. For example, if you have pneumonia or corona, if you are getting a serious corona infection, COVID-19 infection, this particular thing doesn't happen. You don't have eupnea. It is just inspiration or taking in air. You take it comfortably, no problem. You are releasing the air comfortably. There is no problem in it. It is just the elastic recoil of the lungs. So when you take in air, the lungs expands and it exerts an elastic pressure. That elastic pressure pushes the air back outside. So it's just no problem. It's quiet breathing. This type of breathing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, you do this. This relaxes them. So whenever you're tense or nervous, you try this. Try breathing in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in regular rhythms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't say it in your mind. In 3 steps, breathe in, 3 steps, breathe out. Don't force the air in. Comfortably. So you do this at least for 10 minutes. If you do it, immediately you'll see that you relax and it rejuvenates your body. You feel much, much, much better after that. So once this process is disturbed, you have all sorts of body ailments and trouble coming in. Of course, when you're running, you don't have eupnea. The eupnea increases. When you're running, you're exerting yourself. That's a different thing. The next thing is hyperpnea. This is increased volume of air during breathing. Banglaয় বলে খাবি খাচ্ছে. You're breathing in like this. So this is not it's a deep breathing. So you're having some sort of a problem. Maybe you have asthma or something, you need an inhaler. Some problems or something is there in your chest. This is not a good thing. Or maybe you have run a lot. you're breathing in a lot. That is hyperapnea. Always hyperapnea is bad. That's not true. It can be good also, because you are after an exercise, you need more oxygen. Then there you have a diaphragmatic breathing. That is, your diaphragm is a partition which divides. This is the diaphragm. It divides your thoracic cavity and your abdominal cavity. Always remember, mammals. In mammals, the characteristic of mammals is the presence of a diaphragm. So this is a diaphragm which is separating your thoracic and abdominal cavity. So when you inhale, the lungs fills the diaphragm. Forget about the belly contraction. So the diaphragm, your chest increases. That is, your diaphragm increases. So what happens is, diaphragm comes down, the belly expands. So the diaphragm, which is over here, separating, it's a bit below. If you can see, it's a bit below. So when you're taking in air, it goes down. When it goes down, your tummy comes out. Your tummy comes out. ভুঁড়ি হয়ে যায়, ভুঁড়িটা বেড়ে যায়। আবার হাওয়া ছাড়লে ভুঁড়িটার ভেতরে ঢুকে যায়। So this type of breathing is known as diaphragmatic breathing. Then you have coastal breathing. These are coastal muscles in your chest. These muscles in your chest, in your rib cage, surrounding these are the coastal muscles. So the ribs, these muscles increase, ribs open and expand. So these are the ribs, the lungs is inside. So air comes in, চওড়া হয়ে যায়, নিঃশ্বাস নিচ্ছ তোমার চওড়া হচ্ছে, so your chest expands and it comes it contracts also. This is coastal breathing. These are the different types of breathing. So the process of breathing, there are two main steps, that is inspiration and expiration. So what are the muscles which are important? So diaphragm, it is a muscle under your lungs, helps to move air in and out of the body. Breathe in, the diaphragm contracts and moves down to allow air to move into the lungs. Breathe out, opposite thing, just the opposite thing happens. Apart from this, another important muscle is the coastal muscles in your ribs. So these coastal muscle and the diaphragm are very important muscles in breathing. So what are the muscles involved in breathing? So this is your rib cage, sternum, and everything. See the muscles located. The principal muscles are the external intercostals. So basically, they are the coastal muscles. In between the coastal muscles, part of the internal intercostals. It elevates the ribs. Ribs টাকে তুলে দেয়. It elevates, lifts up. The lift is done by this. And the diaphragm, মানে তোমার চেস্টটা এরকম করে ফুলে গেল, ছাতি ফুলিয়ে যাচ্ছ, you are increasing the expanse of your chest. So, and you have the diaphragm, which I explained, which is an important muscle. These are the muscles in inspiration, for taking in air. You're taking in air, and there are some accessory muscles which are present in your neck and areas like that. They are the sternocleidomastoid muscles, the scalene muscles, and the pectoralis minor is not shown. The pectoralis minor, it's over here. The major, minor, it's below. So these are the muscles of the body. So these are the axes. Just remember these names actually. And muscles for expiration. So basically, for quiet breathing, it's just the elastic recoil of the lungs. The air which has come into the lungs, it expands the lungs, and there is an elastic force, and that force pushes the lungs back to its original position. So, and of course, your diaphragm is there, it comes back also. And So when you are using an active expiration, you are blowing the candle out or something like that. You have the you have the external intercostalis and you have the internal costalis. So what it does, it's present inside, not present outside. From outside it contracts, it results you're removing air. So inside, if it contracts, it pulls the diaphragm or your chest, it pulls it close together. And if it's outside, when it contracts, it pulls it outside. So you have two elastics outside, say. The elastic outside, when it contracts, like in a muscle contraction, it pulls the chest together. It increases the area. And if it's inside, it decreases the area. It's just a simple rubber band technique. And you have the abdominal muscles. Then you'll find that there is a pain in your stomach. Say, for example, you have a severe cough. You are coughing a lot. Then suddenly you see that some muscles in your stomach, they start paining. You have a severe cough, you are coughing a lot. It happened to you many times in your life, you know that. After coughing or laughing a lot, suddenly you find that the muscles in your stomach are paining. Say, haste haste pet ব্যথা করতে শুরু করলো. So ব্যথাটা কোথায় করলো? তোমার পেটের muscle, abdominal. So it's your abdominal muscle after which starts to pain. So these are the muscles which are involved in breathing. So what is inspiration? Inspiration or inhalation is the process of, it's the process of breathing in by which air is brought into the lungs. It involves the following step. The muscles attached to the ribs on their outer side contract. So the external costalis muscles, which I told, which is on the outside, they contract. This causes the ribs to be pulled out, expanding the chest cavity. Ribs there, so it pulls the ribs to the outside, and your chest cavity expands like this. Then what happens? The muscle wall between the chest cavity and the abdominal cavity, called diaphragm, contracts and moves downwards to further expand the chest cavity. Diaphragm expands below, and the first thing is that this expands over here, diaphragm goes below. So this chest cavity, it increases in size, because to accommodate your lungs to fill and have more air inside. And your abdominal muscles contract. The muscles in your stomach, they contract. This pulls it even further. So basically, the more you take, you find that there's less space you have in your abdominal. This sucks air into the lungs and fills the expanded alveoli. Now expiration, when you are removing air out, the same thing. After the exchange of gases in the lungs, so whatever happens, oxygen is taken by the blood capillaries and carbon dioxide is released out. After the exchange of gases in the lungs, the air has to be expelled, or it has to be removed. So expulsion of the air from the lungs, it's called expiration. So this process is called expiration. In this process, the muscles attached to the ribs on their inner side, so that was the inner costalis muscles. So in inner side, they contract. So when they contract, they pull the ribs together. Just the opposite of what happened in inspiration. In inspiration, it happens from the outside external costalis, and here you have the internal costal muscles. They pull it. And the diaphragm and the abdominal muscles relax. So for example, people must have definitely watched this ad of Imperial Blue. It's a whiskey, basically. They don't show it on Indian television. Hypocrisy. They give an advertisement, but you're not supposed to show alcohol advertisement, but they show it in a different manner. So they say that buy Imperial Blue CDs. So men will be men, this particular thing. So these middle-aged men around, say, in the 40 to 50s, in that age, they have developed a nice tummy. It's a nice pout, you can say. And they are in the lift, and a beautiful lady comes inside. So to impress them, they pull in their stomachs. So as long as the lady is there, the stomach is pulled inside. So they are under, their stomach is under pressure, their muscles are under pressure. So when the lady leaves, he releases the air, and the stomach comes back to the normal place. So basically, this is exactly what happens. What happens is that the diaphragm and the abdominal muscles, which were stressed as long as the beautiful lady was there, that relaxes, and their stomach comes back to the original nice middle-aged pout. So this leads to a decrease in the volume of the chest cavity, which increases the pressure on the lungs. The air in the lungs is pushed out, and it passes out through the nose. When we breathe out, not all of the air in the lungs get expelled. We will learn about this in the end of today's lecture. So not all of the air in the lungs get expelled. Some of it remains in the lungs. This keeps the lung from collapsing and allows more time for exchange of gases. So the more amount of time your lung retains the air which you have inhaled, the more amount of gaseous exchange takes place. Now, the next part is control of breathing. Basically, there's this breathing control. It is done in respiratory centers called respiratory centers. It's located in your brain, specifically in the region, the pons and the medulla oblongata and the pons. You have the cerebellum inside there, and in between you have the pons varoli, and then you have the medulla oblongata. So this region, say for example, hypothetical diagram of a medulla, for example. This is the vagus nerve. Let me tell you, this is the 10th cranial nerve. This is a very important nerve which goes to your lungs. Like it goes to your lungs, it goes to your stomach, it goes to part of it branches as a cardiac nerve to your heart. So it's a very important nerve. So for example, you have, especially in the stomach, it's a very important nerve. So for example, sometimes when you have severe acidity, some people faint because of their vasovagus nerve gets irritated, and the brain sort of makes you to faint. So anyway, that's not in the respiratory part. So there is a center known as the inspiratory center in the medulla oblongata. From there are certain nerves going in from there. And then you have another center known as the pneumotoxic center. It's in the pons. And you have a center known as the expiratory center in the medulla. So the control of breathing is that the nerve center in the brain is the respiratory center. It has got these following parts. One is the inspiration center, ventral in position here in the medulla. You have the expiratory center. It's also in the medulla here. You have a pneumotoxic center, which is in the pons in this region. It's dorsal. Then you have the peripheral chemoreceptors, which is not mentioned here, but I will show you later. And you have the chemoreceptors in the brain, and you have certain stretch or mechanoreceptors. I'm just going to show you certain notes which are present over here in this region. I'm enlarging it so that it's easy for you to follow. So control of respiration is controlled by these areas of the brain. So these areas of the brain that stimulate the contraction of the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles. These areas are collectively called respiratory centers. So they are these predominant respiratory centers I have mentioned in these pictures. These areas they are summarized here. The first, as I showed, is the medullary inspiratory center here. It is located in the medulla oblongata. It generates rhythmic nerve impulses that stimulate contraction of the inspiratory muscles. And that, who are the inspiratory muscles? They are the diaphragm and the external intercostal muscles. Normally, expiration occurs when these muscles relax. So expiration means it comes out. When these muscles relax, expiration comes out. Facilitate by stimulating the expiratory muscles, internal intercostal and abdominal muscles. So the next is the pneumotaxic area located in the pons. It inhibits the inspiratory center, limiting the contraction of the inspiratory muscles and preventing the lungs from overinflating. So you're at one time, fine. You keep on breathing, then your lung expands and bursts. So this particular, this pneumotaxic area, this area, it prevents your lungs from expanding to infinity and bursting. At one time, stop, the muscles will say. It will stimulate certain muscles. The names are given over here, inspiratory muscles, and it will not overinflate or overfloat too much. Then you have the apneustic area. It stimulates the inspiratory center, prolonging the contraction of the inspiratory muscles. The respiratory center are influenced by stimuli received from the following three group of sensory neurons. So these centers, what are these centers in the brain? They are a collection of nerves or neurons. So basically, what type of neurons these are? First is the central chemoreceptors. They are nerves of the central nervous system. They are located in the medulla oblongata. They monitor the chemistry of the cerebrospinal fluid. So in your spinal cord, there is on your brain, there is a fluid known as cerebrospinal fluid. When plasma enters the cerebrospinal fluid, it forms bicarbonate and H+. And the pH of the fluid drop becomes more acidic. So if why it becomes more acidic? More H+ is released. This you will learn later, that more carbon dioxide inside your blood. That means your blood becomes acidic. It reacts with hydrogen and it forms bicarbonate. So bicarbonic acid. So carbonic acid, and this carbonic acid is an acid. We find it in Thumbs Up or Coke. You find these sort of things coming up. So it's acidic, and the pH drops. So more acidic means the pH drops. In response to the decrease in pH, the central chemoreceptors. So more carbon dioxide means more H+, and that means more acidic. More H+ means acidic. You must have read it in chemistry. And what it does is this stimulates the central chemoreceptors to increase inspiratory rate. Inspiratory rate means it will tell your body is in short form of short amounts of oxygen. You need more oxygen, so take in more air. So this is what it tells. Then you have the peripheral chemoreceptors. They are the nerves of the peripheral nervous system. Remember my former classes on the nerve. What is the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system? It is located in the aortic bodies in the wall of the aortic arch. So it's in your blood capillaries, it's blood vessels, these particular chemoreceptors of nervous chemoreceptors are located. So an increase in pH or Ca2 or a decrease in PO2, they stimulate these respiratory. So any change in pH, change in concentration of carbon dioxide or change in oxygen, this is all detected by these particular receptors over here. Then you have the stretch receptors in the wall of the bronchi. So these are basically receptors are nerve extensions. So when your lung is expanding, so there is a mechanical stress on the lungs because of the air, and these are known as stretch receptors when it's stretching. So they are, after a certain limit, the stretch receptor says no more stretching. This response is called inflation reflex or the Hering-Breuer reflex. So let us go back to the full screen. So now to make it much more simpler, This is your brain, the cerebral cortex, involuntary control over breathing. Plus means a positive stimulation, minus means a negative stimulation. Then you have other receptors like pain receptors, emotional stimuli that's present in the hypothalamic region of the brain. You have got a plus and a minus. Plus means stimulates, minus means it negatively stimulates. And this is your respiratory, main respiratory centers. This orange pair thing, it's present in the medulla and pons. So they are stimulated by peripheral chemoreceptors in the aortic arches. Like I told, in your aortic arches, in your blood vessels, you have these peripheral chemoreceptors. So decrease in oxygen, increase in carbon dioxide, or increase in H plus, they stimulate these centers for more inspiration. Plus, this is plus. Bring in more oxygen. This plus means more oxygen, minus means less inflation. Then you have the central chemoreceptors, which is present directly inside your medulla oblongata. So increase in the cerebrospinal fluid, that is the fluid which is present inside your cerebrum. If you have increased amount of carbon dioxide and acidic content over there, that means body needs more oxygen, the brain needs more oxygen. So they will stimulate your brain to stimulate your muscles in your chest and diaphragm to take in more air, to breathe in more air. And then you have receptors in your muscles and joints. So you're running a lot, your joints, you're running a movement. So these places need oxygen. So these receptors will stimulate positively. This area is plus. That is, they stimulate taking in air. Plus, this area is plus. So more you're running or doing something, it takes more air. So they will stimulate your the center in your medulla and pons, the respiratory center, to your costal muscles and diaphragm to take in more air, to promote more inspiration. And other way around, you have in your lungs the stretch receptor. The more you inflate, you will say, stop, no more inspiration, now expiration, no more expansion, please don't take in more air. After a certain time, you won't be able to, because your stretch receptors is preventing you from doing it. And some type of irritation inside your lungs, maybe the pneumonia or a bacteria, or you have taken some cigarette smoke, something has got and it has irritated inside your lungs. So you're trying to breathe in and remove that thing out, that irritant, along with your mucus. So when you cough, that mucus comes out from your lungs or from your throat or from those areas. So these things will stop the lungs from inflation. So that will stop the lungs from inflation. So I would suggest you, recommend you, please, I will send you this slide. I will put this up in the, please join my Google Classroom, please. I will upload all these things in the Google Classroom. I will not do it in WhatsApp, because in WhatsApp my phone gets jammed a lot. I will send it in this Google Classroom. Please join my Google Classroom. And I would say you in this PowerPoint presentation, please visit this website and look into this website, and you will find this place to be wonderful. Lots, very informative, and it'll clear. You have taken a lot of information from that website. So decreased ventilation. That means decreased ventilation means decreased breathing. That is less air you're taking inside. What that does is you have increased arterial carbon dioxide pressure. So inside your arteries, carbon dioxide levels increase. What happens? The blood plasma CO2 increases. They stimulate the chemoreceptors in the medulla oblongata, which stimulates the respiratory center in the medulla oblongata, which stimulates the spinal cord, motor neurons. This stimulates your respiratory muscles like diaphragm and the external costal muscles, and increased ventilation. When there is decreased breathing, it will stimulate increased breathing. The other way around. This is the positive feedback which comes, and then other way around, the negative feedback. So when you have increased ventilation, when you're breathing in a lot of air inside, too much air is also not good. Yeah. So negative feedback comes just the other way, stops the increased arterial carbon dioxide, because lots of oxygen comes in, so carbon dioxide doesn't take the amount of carbon dioxide reduces because lots of oxygen is coming inside. And the blood pH, which is with the blood pH which is decreasing because of increased carbon dioxide and carbonic acid, because the pH it becomes acidic, that means more acidic means more H plus. So this thing happens, this thing is just happening, this whole step is happening in the opposite direction, so a negative feedback takes place. So this is how the control of your respiration takes place. This is an interesting question. For example, I hope if we get some exams to give, then you'll get a question, explain the mechanism of control of respiration. And now let's go to the last part, which is the lung volume. The lung volume can be divided into 4 units. That is tidal volume, expiratory. These are the different types of volumes present. I will explain all these volumes one by one. I'll just go to the notes once more from here. There is no speaker notes over here. So basically, anyway, forget it. There's no speaker, no notes. No, that's good enough. So basically, lung volume is certain volume present of air present in your lungs. So there are 2 terms which we use: a capacity and one is volume. Volume is volume. How you measure volume? The space inside. And capacity is the ability of the capacity or ability of the lungs to take that amount. So if a capacity of your lungs is low, that means because of some problems, your lungs is unable to expand as much as it should expand. So that's a capacity, and volume is the space. So there's a minor difference between what is a lung volume and a lung capacity. Essentially, they are sometimes used synonymously, as usual. It's confusing. So let us know what a tidal volume is. Tidal volume is the lung volume representing the normal volume of air displaced between normal inhalation and exhalation when extra effort is not applied. So eupnea, normal, you're breathing in and breathing out, you're not giving extra effort. This is happening when you're sleeping or whatever, it's happening normally. So this much of volume is tidal volume. This amount of volume is tidal volume. So this is the approximate tidal volume. So, tidal volume. So this is the tidal volume. The next is the inspiratory reserve volume. This part. This is the total lung capacity of air present in the lungs. So this is the reserved amount of air that can be exhaled beyond what is normal. So exhale means you're removing. Normally I release my air and I am releasing more air. What is the maximum which you can remove out? That what is present, that is the, apart from what is going out, what reserve is present. So it is not the complete thing. So this is known as the conversely, the inspiratory reserve volume, IRV, is the additional amount of air that can be inhaled after a normal inhalation. So the former thing I explained, what was the expiratory reserve volume, and this part. And now this is the inspiratory reserve volume. You are taking it normally, and you can take in more air inside. And you can take in more air inside. That is the inspiratory reserve volume. The next part is the expiratory reserve volume. What I explained before. Your expiratory reserve volume is the amount of extra air above a normal breath exhaled during a forceful breath out. The average ERV volume is about 1,100 ml in males and 800 in females. So males have more, but unfortunately, because of smoking, some males they decrease this amount. Then you have the residual volume. It is the volume of air remaining in the lungs after maximum exhalation. After you remove all the air, after that, the remaining, there is still some air which is left. This you have got no control. This is the residual volume. This is the residual volume. Normal adult value is this amount. Then you have the total lung capacity. It is the volume of air in the lungs after maximum inspiration. This is the TLC, total lung capacity. 4 to 6 liters. This yellow part, this whole thing is the TLC. Then you have an important capacity known as the vital capacity. Vital capacity is the maximum amount of air a person can expel from the lungs after a maximum inhalation. It is equal to the sum of the inspiratory reserve volume, the tidal volume, the expiratory reserve volume. It is approximately equal to the forced vital capacity. The inspiratory capacity is about 3.6 liters. It is the maximum amount of air that can be inspired. So this is the essential formula. IC is equal to total volume plus IRV. Just hold on for a moment. Okay. So the IC is equal to TV plus IRV. So then you have the functional capacity. The functional residual capacity, FRC, after a normal expiration. It is the residual capacity which is functional after normal expiration. This is FRC is equal to RB plus ERV. So you will get 1 mark or 2 mark questions from this particular section. Another thing which I will explain in my next class, which is regarding the real exchange of gases. Although this is placed inside circulatory system, but this basically is a part of the your respiration. Partial pressure. So if you take a big cylinder has got air. Inside that air, you have oxygen, you have carbon dioxide, you have argon, you have nitrogen, you have several components which are present. And these components, they exert an influence inside this particular container. So partial pressure is just the pressure, say for example, of oxygen. It's just the pressure which oxygen gives to that cylinder. You're not taking into consideration of what the carbon dioxide or argon or other gases are giving, nitrogen, what they are given, you're not taking into consideration. Only what oxygen is given. So it's the partial pressure. So this is an indication of the concentration of oxygen. If the partial pressure of oxygen is high, that means the concentration of oxygen is high. So this list, essentially, I will explain this list in much more detail in my next class when I talk about certain of these laws and rules. So this is what partial pressure is. With this, I end my talk today. So just thank you for listening to my talk. And if you have any questions, please get inside this Google Classroom. And if you have any question, look, I'll send this video to you. As soon as I get the recording in my drive, I will send this link to you. And then immediately what you can do is you can listen to this video and as many times, then frame your questions where you are getting problems, places which you are not able to understand clearly. For example, in the lung volumes and capacities, those are the places where you can actually those are things which you need to remember. They are nothing to understand very much. They are volumes which you need to remember a lot. So these are the capacity which you need to remember. So with this, I am sort of stopping my recording over here, and I will then